Hello and welcome to another edition of Choose to Challenge. It is the first week of the month, and what do we come at you with? Mindset Alchemy. I'm LaWanna Bradford, here with my co-host, the amazing, dynamic Constance, Connie Wills. How's it going, Connie?
It is wonderful over here in Tucson, Arizona. The weather's finally getting warmer again. Great, and I can't wait to dive in today. Let's do this.
You know, and this is great because normally I'm in Atlanta, but now I'm in Sierra Vista, Arizona, about a little over an hour from you. So at least we're in the same time zone.
Absolutely.
And that starts our mindset shift, right?
Right. That's right.
Well, today we're going to just get right into it. We know that your mindset is really important. And today we want to talk about your mindset and your purpose and how life can happen. That apple cart can be upset and you're wondering, okay, what's next? What's my purpose? And you begin to question sometimes your value, your worthiness. And so we want to unpackage that in three distinct lanes where it's going to be a really fast hitting show. Later on in the year, we're going to do a deeper dive in these areas. But the first we're going to talk about is job loss, right? That's very relevant today. We're hearing the cries. We feel your pain. The second is when that chapter closes in life, that thing that you're so used to having. So it might be a retirement. It might be now you're facing that empty nest syndrome. And then the last thing is, what's our last thing, Connie?
Last thing is relationship.
Ooh, yeah, I think I forgot about that deliberately.
It's relationship. It could be relationship with friends. It could be a marriage relationship. It can be, any kind of relationship that's meaningful to you. And the end of that, how do we deal with it? How do we deal with our mindset and purpose surrounding our relationships? How do we do that?
Yes. So as we kind of have our little back and forth conversation, we want you to think about, we want you to put on two lenses, kind of think, what is my mindset as I'm going through these things, or maybe I have gone through? And then secondly, at any point, did I question, what is my purpose at this stage in my life? Let's get into it right now. Connie, what's on the news? I mean, thousands and thousands of people are losing their jobs. I mean, federal jobs, and it's trickling down to corporate, state, and local governments. What's going on?
And you know what? And it's not just their job. I mean, we're saying job, right? But it's their livelihood. It's their life. It's their retirement. It's everything. Many people have worked so hard. Most of us, when we have a career and we work hard to get there, we work hard to stay there. And the devastation in your mind, that's where the devastation comes from, when you lose that, when that's stripped from you, right? When it's taken from you, that has to really mess with people's mindset. And to get through that, I'll let LaWanna just talk about a little bit how somebody could get through that on a more positive note, how they can flip their mindset, because we know that is devastating. It's just straight up. We can't make an excuse, right?
Right. I just want to share this one little story. I remember when I was in the corporate sector working for the government, we had landed a major contract. Things were rocking and rolling. Then we got an extension on the contract, another element of work. I was placed on this new project team. Was the biggest pay raise I'd ever experienced. Literally, my pay raise increased $100 an hour. I was feeling myself, Connie. I'm like, this is good because it was a multi-year contract. This is right as we're approaching the holiday season. I'm on the spend frenzy, buying all these amazing gifts for just everybody. And then the day after Christmas, I get a call. They cut that portion of the contract. And I said, okay, so what does that mean? Exactly. And they said, well, it means that you won't have a job. And I said, okay, well, that means that part of the contract, but you're going to put me back where I was, right? So suddenly I went from this amazing high, incredible opportunity to literally overnight, it was stripped. And I flew into, celebrate Christmas on a high. I leave entering the new year on a low, and I'm at the unemployment line. Real story. But your question was, what can we do with mindset? I had to realize, Connie, that number one, I'm not my job. And because I'm a person of faith, my job isn't my provision. I believe God is my provider. And that job or whatever opportunity is the conduit that he uses to bless me, that he uses to supply all of my needs according to his riches and glory. So for me, that was what helped me to get through and realize my seat of power didn't lie within me. It was with him. That God was he knew my needs. And he knew I had bills to pay. And I might be going through a time of pain and anxiety, but if I could lean in on him and trust, then I would be able to have clarity of mind, because I believe when you have clear mind, then you can see the opportunities in the chaos. But when your mind's cluttered, you become frozen. You don't know what to do, where to go, who to talk to. You're just stuck. And I had to quickly get unstuck. And it was really realizing, wait a minute, God, you got this. I got to trust that you really have it. And I have to act like you really have it. Connie.
I love that. I love that, how you flip that mindset to a mindset of trusting God, a mindset of clarity. First, the clarity, that part jumped out at me too, to have a clear mind so that you could not miss opportunities that God put in front of you after what was a devastating loss, right? Devastating. But you had trust and faith and belief that God will provide all my needs. So that is absolutely, I'm a woman of faith as well, and I would do the same thing. Probably have a little fit first, because in my mindset probably went a little crazy. But then I'm sure I would have calmed down, cleared my mind, and realized that, and thank God that he provides for me. But I truly get that. I think that's great. That's a great way to handle this. And even if you're not a person of faith, I still think the principles that LaWanna handled that with are still applicable to you. Calm down. Yeah, you might have those moments of screaming and hollering and crying. Have those. It's okay. But then calm down and sit back and get your peace and realize where you believe your provision comes from. I believe it comes from God. LaWanna believes it comes from God. Wherever you believe your provision comes from, then you have to focus on that. Clear your mind, focus on that, and then you will see opportunities come your way that you wouldn't have seen had you still been suffering and in a cluttered mindset and didn't have clarity. So I love that. I love that. Absolutely.
Well, now we're going to go on to the second chapter. So we just talked about job loss. You may be in a situation where you've got some relationship woes. It may be a romantic relationship. It may be a relationship with your children. It may be a relationship with your boss. It may be a relationship with your business partner. But all you know is you guys are doing this, or you're doing this. You're parting ways. Right?
Yep. Maybe a little bit of that, none of that.
Right. And that's a whole challenge of your mindset, right? You're at a place where you're so resistant and you're trying to, and I'll toss this to you, Connie, trying to fit that square peg in that round hole. It's like, I'm going to make this work no matter what. And that business partner is like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to play in your sandbox anymore. And you're like, oh no, you are going to stay here. Here's your bucket, and here's your pail, and here's your shovel. We are going to build this castle together. And it's friction upon friction upon friction. Connie.
Yes, I have a story. I have a story for you. So I'm laughing because I just said so. My youngest grandson always starts the story with so. But anyway, so I just said so. But I have a story. I was in a very long-term friendship, beautiful person. Of course, we don't mention names. And I had gone on it. We had planned this trip for a minute because I didn't have my passport. I finally got my passport, planned this trip. I was excited. I was, talking up to the person up till the trip. The day of the trip, I went to the person's house the day before because we flew out of where they live. And everything seemed normal, but then it seemed a little bit off. And there were things being said to me about me from this person that I wasn't used to hearing. And I'm just thinking, must be in a bad mood. I had a bad day, whatever. So get to the destination of the trip. And I ended up, I didn't really injure myself, but I ended up tripping. And the person just sort of, that's what you get. Ha ha. And I was okay. We are talking about, we're not children. We are senior citizens going on this trip. So I was just sort of like, okay. And so I made a joke out of it. I took a picture of myself. I made a whole joke. And then trip goes on, still just comments coming back and forth, being very argumentative. And I knew that wasn't our relationship. And I'm wondering what's going on. Fast forward, trip's over. I get back home. And normally we would talk about once a week or so. Didn't hear from this person for a few weeks. So I reach out. So-and-so, what's going on? How are you doing? I haven't heard from you much since trip. What's going on? Then come the cold text. Basically, you know what's going on. And you know what you did to me. And I'm thinking, okay, fast forward from there. About a month later from that, I get this worst, I'd say, telling off in the world on a video app. But it wasn't showing the person's face, but they were just telling me what I did wrong from the day we met. And I was devastated. I was floored. I was like, wow, this person never liked me. And I'm thinking, and here I am. I mean, you talk about crying tears like you break up with a mate or something. I was crying like a baby. And I'm thinking, this person, they never liked me ever. And how do we do all this? How do we share so much? How do we do all this? So my mindset immediately went into a suffering mode. Immediately, then what happens next after that suffering mode? When you feel hurt, then it becomes revenge, right? Then you start thinking, what am I? Okay. I remember then you start pulling out memories. Well, okay, I remember when they did this. I remember. So then I went there. I went to that space. I went to a very, very I was holding resentments. I was resenting everything at that point. And then I had to come to a space in mind, LaWanna, the word clarity. I had to let it go, but I had to get clear on the fact that I needed to let it go because it was affecting every area of my life. My mindset was definitely not right. And I was trying to be mindset conscious about everything else, but that one thing, I would always fall back on that. I resent that. I resent this person. But I had to get out of the resentment. I had to let it go. I had to forgive. And I had to let go of resentments. And that allowed me to get my mindset back in the right spot. And I had to realize it is not me. I was in a let them moment. I didn't even know about let them then. I had to let that person be that person. And I had to say, it's not you. It's not you. Because with the conversation I wanted to have with her and defend myself for the last, 15, 20 years of our friendship, it didn't work. I mean, it was something that wasn't going to happen and it wasn't necessary. And many times we feel at the end of a relationship that we must explain ourselves. We must explain. We don't have to. I had to just let it go.
And I like what you said. I think that's the hardest thing is, especially when it's a long-term relationship of any type, is, as Dr. George Fraser says, bless and release them. It's like, okay, they don't want to be here. They're showing me they don't want to be here, or they're showing me, as you said, she never liked me, doesn't respect me. Okay, I don't have to hold on to that. I don't have to allow that in my inner circle anymore. Doesn't mean I don't love and care for them. But if I'm trying to force something, as you said, you start feeling this resentment, right? and let me write up my list of defense. I'm going to go toe to toe with you. We're going to debate this out, and I know I'm going to win. It's ugly breeding ugliness, and it actually becomes toxic to you. So, and I love what you said. You have to get clarity, and then realizing, and we're going to repurpose back into this. Sometimes our purpose is being the peacemaker. And the peacemaker doesn't mean you always agree, but peacemaker saying, I'm going to take the higher road in the situation, and I'm just going to bless and release you. But my purpose is realizing that this relationship had its moment in time, and it's okay if I move on.
Absolutely. And that's when I was thinking relationships are for a reason, for a season, for a lesson, for a blessing, or for a lifetime. And we never know what that relationship is for when we get into it. But I had to step back and just say, this relationship was for a reason and a season.
Yes.
And be okay with it.
Once upon a time, I was out of breathing room. I didn't know what it was called, but I love having a label for it. So if we can define it, we can address it. And so breathing room is that space between your current pace and your limits and your abilities. So in breathing room, it's really important that we have that space between what we are capable of doing and what our limits are. And it's a very important concept, and is catching on fire with our mommies and our women in our little corner of the world. And I'm so pleased that we will learn more, we will be happier people, and not so stressed out, and we will operate in the love zone and not the fear zone.
Well, we're almost out of time, so we're going to go to our number 3. Like I said, we'll be back throughout the year. We're going to do a deep dive on these particular topics. We're going to have special guests to join us. So we're just giving you a little teaser today. And the last thing is when the chapter closes. It's like you're reading this great book, right? And you get to the end of it, and it's done. And you're like, wait a minute, is there going to be a volume 2? Well, in this case, there is no volume 2. It's just done. So I want to toss it to you, Connie, because this is specifically dealing with when we have that next chapter in life. Perhaps it's a retirement, and I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about, the retirement or the empty nest. Your children are gone. They're living their life. They're doing their thing. And that chapter of your intimate involvement is done.
Let me get this. I'll do the empty nest one at this point, because my relationship with my daughter, I only have one daughter. It was just close. It was so tight. As she was growing up, I wasn't a helicopter mom, but I was close. I was there. I was one that made sure she was involved in things, active. She would come to me with her hurts, her pains, teenage girls, also with her resentment sometimes because I was that mom. However, we had a close relationship. Then she turns 18, senior in high school. Then she graduates. Now she stayed in town to go to school here, but she lived on campus. So that right there took me out of the equation, and she could do whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. So I couldn't say you've got to be home by 10 p.m. anymore. I couldn't say those things. And that was hard in itself. Just separating. We were in the same city still, but just separating from that, knowing that she called me from San Diego, almost about to go into the border to Mexico at the border during a spring break. And I didn't know she was going, and just saying, Mom, I'll see you later. We're going across the border. And the anxiety that was in my heart, but I couldn't control that. So I had to let go more and more. And it was a mindset shift that I didn't know I was doing at the time. Letting go, learning to let go, and learning to let her be a woman. Fast forward to her being married. Now that was a biggie, because even when she graduated, she lived with me for a little bit, etc. she bought her own home a little bit after that, and that was hard to let go of that because she wasn't here anymore. And I had a couple of grandchildren at the time, very young, and they weren't here, so I didn't even have the same space in their life that I did when they lived here. And then here comes husband. And that, even though, we have joy in that as parents, yeah, ooh, she's getting married. But on the same token, as me, as a single mother, and I had such a tight relationship, I knew that relationship was going to change. I knew it was. And there were some times we butted heads a lot. And it wasn't necessarily about her marriage, but it was about things that I thought I had the insight on. And I thought about her that I already knew. I raised you, girl. I can tell you this. I know this about you. But I had to step back. Another mindset shift that I didn't know I was doing. And I had to realize, let her be her. And God spoke to me. He did. He told me, you cannot control another grown human, even though she's your daughter. She's a product that came from you. You cannot do that. Only I can do that. Only I can work on her mindset and her husband's mindset so they can have the union they're supposed to have. You can't do it. So many of us who have children that have grown up and got married or in serious relationships, and we realize we don't have that same place. Ladies, gentlemen, it's a mindset shift. We have to take that mindset shift and realize we can't control that, but also have peace and clarity that everything is going to be okay, because what you train up a child with is going to stay with them. So
I like what you said, is getting to a place where you're allowing her to be, or allowing a person to be. And that's a little hard, right? We're in our little realm of control, and we want to orchestrate everything. But when you're able to step back, not only allowing them to be, but allow yourself to be, that's where I think your power seat is. Connie, can you believe it? We are already out of time.
Wow. Yes, I can. But we hit all those points. And like LaWanna said, we will deep dive into these points in the future. We might be doing pop-ups. We might just say, hey, whoever wants to join, let's deep dive and talk about this. So be prepared. We're coming back with this stuff.
Yes, this has been great. Another edition of Mindset Alchemy, where we talked about 3 things. Again, we can do a deep dive, as Connie mentioned: your relationships, those closed chapters, and your finances, job loss. What do you do? How do you still find your purpose and your worth, and realizing that in all these examples we gave you, you're not your relationship. You're not, being a parent is not who you are. It's the role you have. And then when we think about the job, that's not who you are either. And one of the, I think, greatest gifts when we're able to uncover our truth in mindset is really understanding who we are and embracing and loving that being with all our might. And then the purpose unfolds, right? We go beyond the roles, the different hats we wear, but that divine purpose. Why were we placed here? What indelible mark are we supposed to have in this space and time? Connie, I'll let you close us out.
Absolutely. What are you thinking in relation to your purpose? In other words, what are you thinking in relationship to you and who you really are? And it's not outside of you. It's nothing outside of you. It's everything inside of you. So remember, purpose is directly connected to you, not to the circumstances, like LaWanna just said, not to other people, not to other experiences. Your purpose is connected directly to you.
Well, we will see you next month for another edition of Mindset Alchemy on Choose This Challenge. Be safe. Be well, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Are you ready to defy gravity and challenge the impossible? Meet LaWanna Bradford, the visionary leader behind Choose to Challenge on E360 TV. Now in its 5th season, this groundbreaking show shines a spotlight on voices of change from across the globe. Born during the pandemic, Choose to Challenge becomes a platform for transformation where no topic is off limits. Every episode highlights individuals breaking barriers, rewriting narratives, and making an impact. Ready to share your story and inspire change? Call 404-618-2824 to become a guest. This is your moment to rise. Tune in now at e360tv.com. Your voice matters. Let's change the world together.